Well, hey, boss community, Facebook group here. This is Tanner with Action Coach and Kay Cote with Action Coach here. Figured we'd just kind of jump in, do a little bit of conversation on different topics within business, marketing, sales, whole bunch of different things here over the next few weeks. Just give you some kind of like real content, discussion on different things. So I think today Kay's going to kind of guide through some conversation questions around the topic of repurposing content. So that's kind of the topic today, and hope you all enjoy.
Well, thank you so much, Tanner. Yes, repurposing content. It's one of those things that can be such a handy tool, and there's a variety of ways to do it to help kind of cut down on the daunting task of creating content that we all know we need to do, but we don't want to do it. This is going to help you do it with a little more ease and a little more joy.
Yeah, be a lot of fun. So what are some things on when it comes to repurposing content? Kind of what are some things that you'd want to know, or some things that you think would be valuable for us to kind of start chatting through when it comes to sharing this with the rest of the group?
Well, definitely. When you think about content, it's something where when you can get more out of less, it's so helpful. And there's a lot of ways that we can tap into content that either we've created or we've found or sourced that we can create something new from or make it new again. One of the ways that I like to do it, and this is kind of a creative one, is that you can like create some infographics or, blog posts from some different reports and things. And so when you're online perusing around, if you like to look at different articles, you can take pieces of those articles and make them your own. I like to do this you visually can create it with an infographic, or if you're doing a video or a podcast, you can kind of create a structure around that content and outline it and then just talk about those talk points. And so, I found a little information on that. So, like taking key points, statistics, and data from longer form content and blog posts and things, and then creating short pieces out of that. And so that's what I found when I look that up, and that's something that I utilize in my content as well. What are your thoughts, Tanner?
Yeah, I love that. I think it's really important to understand that when it comes to creating multiple forms of content, the first frame is I think that at least for a lot of business owners out there, they're like, I know I need to start posting on social media and I need to be doing stuff like that. The amount, like the volume required to get people to actually see things, I think is often underestimated. So then it becomes this, massively daunting task of like, well, it's not just, posting on Facebook once a week or a couple times per week. It's like I need to be there and I need to be everywhere else, or I need to be what's this thing? I need to be doing blogs and long form videos and short things and all sorts of things. So I think this repurposing content is a really effective way to do it.
Mhm.
I love infographics versus written content versus video versus long form versus short form. And kind of the first thing that comes to mind in like making it easy for someone is starting with whatever you're comfortable with. Like if you're somebody that loves writing and you're great at writing really long things, like starting there and then leveraging that to turn into a script for a long form video. And then once you have the long form video, turning that into a few short form videos. Like it's all the same content, but just started from like the writing framework. For others, they may be really good at just like talking to a camera and then having that transcribed. And now all of a sudden you have a form of a blog post and short form and things like that.
Mhm.
So that's kind of where my mind goes is, if you as a marketer, as a business owner, take a step back and kind of think, what am I good at? What do I like to do? What can I spend a little bit of time doing? Starting there and just creating content from that first, and then starting to repurpose, I think is really fantastic. Uh, oh, I had another thought when you shared, and I think I've lost it now. But yeah, those are some of my like initial thoughts on it. To just kind of make it easier, like going with what works well for you, because everyone's gonna be a little bit different on where they like to spend their time and kind of focused where their creativity is sparked the most.
Mm, that's so true. And I love how you brought that into it. Start where you're comfortable. And that makes it so much easier. Because if you're, like, yeah, if you're a writer or if you're a visual person and someone hands you a microphone, they're like, here, talking to this, you're like, whoa, what the heck do I say? So that makes so much sense. Start where you're comfortable, make your life easier. And then yeah, it's nice that you can work up to another form or, maybe not, but find what works for you and run with it.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be you. Maybe
Mhm,
there's somebody else in your team that loves to be the forward facing, front facing type of person. But if you can give them kind of some bullet points based on a written thing that you've done, but sometimes it's just reflecting back and thinking back on. I tend to spend more time doing X, Y, and Z. Like I journal every day, so maybe I'm really good at writing. And maybe it's I'm really good at journaling with like handwriting it, but I can't do it on the computer. Well, maybe just handwriting something to start with is the place to start. I was thinking about this personally for me and found that probably what works best for me is just like talking aloud, not necessarily recorded or like writing things down or anything else like that, but just like letting my thoughts go, or maybe it's going for a walk and then just kind of talking things aloud and recording some of those thoughts. Like that's what I found for me has worked really well, but it's just
mhm.
like what works.
Mm. Yeah, that's really good. I love that. And what I like to do too is I'm a huge podcaster, and so getting on the microphone and you know, s spewing out some things. Maybe it's a dialogue, usually dialogue, I'm much better. And having a conversation and then transcribing that conversation and then using that to make blog posts. But sometimes it's just even a dialogue I have with someone over coffee when I'm co-working. I have a chat and it sparks an idea and I'm like, all of a sudden, a whole blog is in my head. So, yeah, those are some really great tips and tricks for how to get started and just like work with your brain, work with how you like to work, and, I think you're gonna be off to a really good start.
Yeah. You mentioned something else kind of at the beginning of this that I think is really fascinating, and maybe we should like hit on it a little bit, and that's almost like repurposing other people's content.
Mm,
And sometimes that's just like curating content and reposting it, like finding a really good, article or blog or something else that's of interest to you or that relates to your business and being able to just share that content specifically. But other times it's like providing your own commentary on it, or your own analysis, or just like your viewpoint of what that content is. So if I'm reading an article on how to use AI for sales, I don't know, something like that.
mhm.
And it's a really great article, just taking the time to say, all right, here's the article, and I can use that as a piece of content that I'm sharing. But then, the next piece of content is me writing the 5 bullet points of what I learned from it, or what I took away from it. And like that's another way to kind of repurpose without having to start from scratch or like think that you have to come up with it all. It's just a repurpose of content that's already out there because there's so much great stuff out there.
Oh, this is so true. It's funny, I just did that for I think it was one of the very first times ever. I don't do this very often, but I definitely wanna tap more into that. And yesterday, I was, like, working and had a personal experience of just, like I was dealing with emotions, and I was like, "Okay, what do I do?" I pause. I like to pause, and then actually later that day, I got a message from a guy I follow who's an influencer who gave steps on how to pause and work through emotions, and it just fits so perfectly. So then when I went on and talked about it, I read what he had sent in the text message and put that to my own experience, and I think that also creates relatability with your audience too, is like you're bringing your personality into it, yet you're sharing information that you received from somebody else that helped you, and so it shows that, and then you also can go a layer deeper and maybe tag that person, and then maybe if they reshare it, then you're getting more audience views too, and then
Mhm.
you're also giving them a shout out for the thank you that they gave you that information. So there's so many ways to layer that and get more reach, get more followers, and also connect with other people.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Being able to connect with, when it comes down to it, like being, especially on social media, what are the big things that I see as being very important is building connections. It's not just a one-sided thing of like here's my content, here's my content, here's my content, right? But being able to actually connect with others, collaborate, just like you would offline. If I'm going to go to a networking event, it's not just like here's what I do all the time. It's a back and forth and it's exchange, and really that's kind of the same thing that should be happening online. It's just done on a much larger scale. So being able to tap into other people's audiences and share some great thoughts and things like that in tag, I think is absolutely fantastic. It just brings everybody into kind of your ecosystem of content and your sphere of influence. which
Mm,
is ultimately at the end of the day that's part of the a big part of the game of marketing online is
mhm.
bringing them into that sphere of influence for you or your business and helping build that relationship, the rapport, the credibility, which is why that volume piece is so important.
Yeah, I like what you said because it kind of reminds me of the word, social media. It's meant to be a social experience. There's meant to be engagement. And if you're trying to work with the algorithm too, putting content out there is sometimes we work harder, and this is just some ways we can work smarter. And remember that it's a social experiment. It's just online, but still, yeah, tapping into that comment back, when people write on your stuff, engage with them. They're taking the time to engage, and it's a really great way to do that. And then you build that rapport, and then maybe next time you're meeting for coffee, maybe it's their next business deal. You never know where that connection is gonna go, and so, yeah, be social on it.
So true. I had another thought that, or a thought that dawned on me earlier that now I'm now remembering, and that's thinking about the types of content. So we talked a little bit about like long form written, short form written, video, photos, infographics, a whole bunch of different like ways to consume information. And I think sometimes it's as a producer of content, as a business, as a marketer, we have to remember that our target audience may consume content in different ways at different times. If
Mhm,
I'm, I don't know, if I'm sitting, on the couch at night, I may consume content in a different frame of mind. So I may be looking for different types of content versus sitting at my desk during the office hours. Or my son may consume video content where I'm really big into reading content, right? Everybody has a little bit different way that they're going to consume. So the more ways you can kind of put that same information out there, the greater likelihood that the message that you're looking to get across will actually be absorbed and retained by the audience that you're trying to provide it to.
mm. That's a really good point, Tanner, because, yeah, we often think, we're just pushing content, but, like, how is someone consuming it? A good way to kinda, yeah, tap into that is, yeah, check how you consume content. Like, put yourself in the shoes of your audience member. And yeah, to see what you're doing throughout the day makes a lot of sense. Yeah, some of that. Yeah, I'm definitely much of a more of a scroller at night. Like if I'm just chilling, just kind of scrolling around, maybe a little more leisurely, but I'm in more purposeful content consumption during the day. I would say more actually a lot in the DMs, doing a lot of
Mm.
messaging. So I like think about, okay, so maybe stories because people that's more of a it's not just like on the front source of your page. It's like people have to look for stories. So maybe people really like stories. And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I love the self-analysis piece of that. I think it's something that, at least in marketing, sometimes we can just always become consumers of things. And when we actually take a moment and say, let's look at this from a marketing frame. If I'm, think back to a purchasing decision that you made recently, something that actually took a little bit of thought, not like I went down to the gas station and picked something up super quick and just like impulse buy type deal, but like actually took you a little bit of time to, think through. I think through a software that I was looking at a few months ago, and what was the decision process that I went through? Like it wasn't overly expensive, but I went and I looked at the website and I looked at all the stuff they had there, looked at all the features, looked at some of the videos that they had on the actual website. Then I went to YouTube and I Google searched and I saw other people using it, and I watched some of the actual companies videos along with other people that are just users of it. And then I'm like, okay, great. And then I went and saw customer testimonials and reviews, and then I Google searched, this thing versus the other thing, and it just goes through this entire journey before I was comfortable in the decision that I was going to make of like, yeah, I think this is going to achieve all the boxes that I'm looking for. And some people want more homework and things like that. Some will do less homework depending on the decision that needs to be made. But most people will consume more than one piece of content before they make a purchase decision. There's this cascade of things that tend to happen when we make decisions. We have so much information, at our fingertips, which is why when we go back to being able to repurpose content and do things in different ways and really have a lot of volume out there, it allows, in a way, we can kind of shape that narrative in helping, our prospects be able to make the purchase decision that's right for them and not just a buy now, buy now, buy now thing, and be able to help them on the journey.
Mm, I like what you said about that. I'm a researcher too, especially when it comes to if I'm purchasing something that's a larger scale item, whether it be like even supplements if I'm looking into, or, new computer, any of those things. Like, yeah. So it's like I'm always looking at different things. I'll talk to other people, I'll check the forums, I'll Google, check reviews. So yeah, I think, it just shows too, like bringing it kind of circling back, bringing this all together, that content creation process, the more we put out, the better. But I really think also that word of intentionality. Like if we have
Mm.
intention behind the content that we're putting out, an intention that you want to use this to help serve your audience in a great way, I think that's going to get so much back and it's going to help you come up with ideas. So thinking about what would I want here? How would I want to receive this information? And also bring your friends into it, bring your peers into it, ask them, you can, just have a little discussion about it. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be daunting. It doesn't have to be hard. Start where you're comfortable. And before you know it, you're going to kind of get inspired or intrigued with different options for content creation. And so, yeah, this has been an awesome, awesome discussion.
I love it. Hopefully, this was helpful for many of you out there, kind of watching this on the Facebook group. Let's get some discussion going. For those of you that are putting content out there, like how frequently are you putting content? What are your favorite ways to produce content? Kind of what's that comfort zone for you? Love to hear. So put that in the comments below, and let's get some discussion going about how we can continue to create content and then repurpose it in a whole bunch of different ways.
Yes, definitely. We'll be there with you in the chat. I'm so excited to hear what y'all have to say. And thanks for watching and hope you got a lot out of this video.